it's something that we're going to look into, you know.
I'm with you. I'm with you. But that. So this what I have in mind is the word that name love connection came to mind.
Mhm.
I have a ministry registered,
Yeah.
KLM Kingdom Love Ministries, and I do a lot of virtual presentation. Like you said, you rightly said, I have this grace of knowing people. So I have invited how many of people to my virtual presentation. There was a doctor out of UK that we did a meeting last last year's December. Mind blown.
Mm.
As a matter of fact, I passed that in mind blowing. It was talking about what happens in our body that we don't even know anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are parts of our body we can't see, our liver, our kidney, we don't know what's going
Yeah.
on there. So as a doctor, he was just sharing how those things function and what we should do. So I cut across whether it is ministry, business, you're a business guru,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm happy. I'm very happy you're here because you're gonna bring out your business
Mindset.
wisdom,
Yeah.
sense, you know, and is the first time in the year. This so the name Love Connection came to mind. Love Connection. Because I think what is lacking in the world today is love.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to it. It just seems to like disappear.
Mhm.
There was time that there's a movie on Netflix. I love movie. I'm a movie person.
Yeah.
There's a movie on Netflix um, that speaks to me because that's the kind of person I am. The movie is called the name of the movie is called The Midwives. Yeah, called The Midwives. It's just a movie. In fact, the summary of the movie is about the coming and the exit out of this world, the coming into this world
Mhm.
and the exit out of this world. So when you watch the movie, they paint a lot of pictures of how children are born into this world, the complexities, the complications, all of that, all the pregnancy, childbirth related issue. And then they also try to paint a picture of how people exit out of this world. I mean, what you should do to a man who you are privileged to be around him in his last few moments.
You know that by coincidence, other than being a financial professional,
Yes.
I'm also a nurse.
Talk to me about that, please.
And the part of nursing that I do is hospice,
Are you serious?
which is the end of life. That's what I
Okay.
do. Okay. So that thing you said now about helping people to transition
Mm.
the last moments of their life,
Mm.
to give them peace and comfort
Mm.
so that they can exit
Oh my God.
in a dignified manner. That's what I do.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing for like last 10 years.
And you see why I said that you're
So
a resource person.
yeah, so I have that nursing background and healthcare experience. And one time somebody asked me one time, say, um, "Why do you like this job?" He said,
Mm.
"Why didn't you go? Why didn't you go work in the hospital, ICU, ER, or something?
Right.
But you're doing hospice, end of life."
Right.
And I said that when I came out of nursing school, I never knew I was going to be doing that. I just gave it a trial, and the first client I took care of, um, I remember him vividly. It was in Sherman, Texas. It was in 2012.
Mhm.
I went there with no training,
Mhm.
no experience.
Mhm.
I went to apply for a job,
Mhm.
and they told me, "We have a need for you today,
Wow.
to go today." So I said, "What do I have to do?" They said, "Just keep me comfortable." I said, "Okay." I went there. This patient was non-responsive, right? He was not responsive. He was about to die. He doesn't talk. He's just laying there, breathing very shallow. So I took care of him that night. I did the night shift. Took care of him from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And I went home and I felt good because I said to myself, I was doing something for somebody who was not going to thank me. I won't get nothing from him. He wasn't going to say, even thank you, he won't say because he's dying. He's not even aware that I'm there. I took care of him and I went home. And that satisfaction it gave me. I said to myself, this is all I can do in nursing. I mean, if it's not this in nursing, I'm not doing nothing else.
That was not convinced you.
Yeah, that's perfect.
It's not like what he said. He is not even in a stable position to recognize your presence.
Exactly.
And to be able to say thank you. It therefore means that you were excited doing that because that is a perfect explanation of doing something like unto the Lord.
Correct. It's not for him. Yes.
That's how I saw it.
Exactly. You know how Bible says there's more happiness in giving.
Yes, sir.
Than in receiving.
Exactly.
That's it. I was giving my time
to somebody you cannot receive.
I can't get nothing from him. Yeah, correct. Correct.
So I have a question.
Yes. Right.
But before I ask the question, so we explained LoveConnect is sharing ideas, life experiences, vocation, career, business, relationship, playing game, having fun, connecting with people, eating food. It's part of it. It's part of it. Eating food, and it's gonna be once a month. But what I'm expecting to get out of this is everybody who connects with us will be empowered in different aspects of it.
Exactly.
I mean, if their financial status at the beginning of the year is $50,000, a year, by the end of the year, when they look at it, it's double or maybe triple.
Yes.
That's the idea. Something, a connection that enables us to better ourselves based on the ideas we share, concepts we interrogate, information that we are able to.
Knowledge, they say, is power, right? So sometimes you may be in an environment and a lot of things are going on and you have no idea. No idea. Somebody else has to come up to you and say, hey, look, I see what's going on here.
Many years ago I used to preach, and there's something I used to say that it is like somebody who is in the midst of an ocean, but soap is still getting into his eye. Because, I mean, think about it this way: you are in an ocean. It's easy to wash off the soap from your eyes and make sure it doesn't enter there. So how can you be in an ocean and then soap is still getting? You're not taking advantage.
Exactly. Scripture says somewhere, I can't remember, somewhere in Proverbs, right? It talks somewhere about somebody who is in the banquet hall and starving. Oh my God. There is food. He's in a banquet. There's food all around, right? But he's starving of hunger. Talk to me about just put your hand and grab it. That's how it is. That's how I see it when it comes to these United States. It's a land of opportunity. Right. It's a land of abundance. Right. It's a land flowing with milk and honey. Right. There's anything you want, it's here. In here. Right. But then you still see a lot of people who are starving. I see a lot of people under the bridge. Some of them don't look like they have mental issues. No. Some of them look like people who just couldn't meet up. There's something wrong with that. They just couldn't meet up. Because, in America, we pay bills. Yeah. Bills. And the risk of being homeless is very real high. It's very high. I have seen people. I have met a medical doctor who ended up on the street. My goodness. I kid you not. A medical doctor who ended up on the street. Wow. Because when things happen, okay, when things happen, then you understand that there is this country is not a socialist country, right? It's more capitalist, right? So I used to live in Europe, okay, where, say for example, healthcare is government run, right? So everybody has something equal, right? They have it. Okay, used to live in Europe, so I know. But in America, sickness can send you bankrupt. That was why when Obama came as president, he said the first thing he wanted to start with is healthcare. Healthcare. Because you've seen a lot of people whose sickness is the number one cause of poverty. Yeah, in America. But in other countries like in Europe, where I lived before I came here, where everything is government run, everyone have the same system. You see, you just go to the nearest government hospital, take care of you. Everyone have the same insurance, right? In America, it's different. So you need to understand the system so you don't fall victim.
I was telling somebody who, well, not just somebody, anybody coming from anywhere that I know, be it Mexico, Africa, wherever you're coming from, I would advise them and say, just pray that God will sustain your health. You know, because if anything is to go wrong with your health in America, I had a situation where in my workplace a package fell on me, knocked me off. Thank God nothing happened. I did all the examination I needed to do. We checked my score, spinal, everything. And thank God everything was perfect. Well, it was in a company. So the insurance, covered it. Exactly. However, I got to find out how much I would have paid if there was no insurance. There was no surgery. I was even okay. I'm like, why are they charging me almost, was it up to $10,000?
Oh my God.
Why?
Yeah.
You didn't treat me, you didn't do surgery, you didn't do nothing. All you did was to check, is his score good, is this, and what kind of bill is this?
Let me tell you a story.
Oh my
God. My mother. When my mother came here, so I went to work. My wife, she was a new nurse then, so she was checking out my mother's blood pressure. And my mother's blood pressure was super high. My wife called me and said, Mom's blood pressure is very high. We have to take her to the hospital. I said, leave her alone. Don't worry about it. Leave her. My wife said, no, how can her blood pressure be this high? You say, leave her alone. Okay. I said, okay. Take her to the hospital. She took her to the ER. They checked her blood pressure. Yes, it was high. They gave her.
Yes. You want me? Yes. 1 second. Okay. 1 second. I love that story. Sorry for that. Just giving me updates. So tell me that story.
So my wife took her to the hospital 3 years. They gave her one tablet of clonidine, 0.1 milligram, one tiny tablet, and sent her home. Guess how much bill they sent for me?
Talk to me.
$6,000.
What in the world?
I'm like, what
in the world?
My wife saw it and she was like, really? I said, I told you to leave. I know. My mother said, in Nigeria, this is how it has always been. They have this blood pressure problem. But anyway, long story short, eventually we got her to start taking medication to bring her blood pressure down. But just that one assessment that they checked her blood pressure and gave her one clonidine, $6,000 bill. Now, if my wife had called ambulance,
oh my goodness,
take her there, and the same thing happened, the bill would have been 50,000.
I don't know. I think it should not be so.
It should be so.
I think it should not be so. I think you're a nurse. You're in a position to tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I think issues concerning health should not be so expensive. Because if it is that expensive, somebody might be sick who maybe doesn't have insurance. And the person will like, oh man, instead of you to go to hospital to pay out of the pocket. And the person gets to die because he's afraid of the expenses.
It's the problem, correct.
So we need to fix that problem. Let me interrogate. Let's interrogate something. Perfection.
Mm.
I was thinking of this meeting and I started thinking of perfection. And I told you before we have a publication coming out that is powered by this love connection. That we keep speculating around and using it to invite people. Unfortunately, it didn't get here at the time. So this discussion will form the article for the next publication. Okay. So that's what I love about it. I mean, we can sit down here, discuss something, and then it reflects in our publication so that what we discuss can be a blessing to other people who gets to read it. So I'm looking for perfection. And the question is, why is it that people I have my question on medical issues. Okay. That would be the last. Okay. But why is it that people think that nobody is perfect? What makes people think that way?
Well, it depends. Sometimes some people use that nobody is perfect as an excuse.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
As an excuse to indulge in whatever they want to do.
Absolutely.
Okay. So they say nobody's perfect. That's an excuse.
Right.
Okay. Now, because I think I cannot remember somewhere in scripture. It also says we should not use God's undeserved kindness or God's mercy as an excuse to do wrong.
Right. Yes,
so people come up with that. No, but yes, we know that literally nobody is perfect. Right? We know that. When people put that in the front, pretty much sometimes it is as a cover, to give themselves an excuse for what they're doing. That's how I see it.
And I like the angle you came from. It is absolutely correct that most of the people who say it out of excuse. Some other people who say it out of, man, how can any man be perfect? I mean, they even go ahead to say, it's only God who is perfect, because they are looking at the infallible, the infallible state of God, and how that we men are, we are not perfect indeed. But then the question starts coming to mind: is perfection a possibility? That's another. But let me read out what I wrote about the definition. It says that perfection is the condition, state, or quality of being free, or as free as possible from all flaws or defects. You see that? Now, but there's another definition I love. It says that, perfection is the action or process of improving something until it is flawless, or as flawless as possible.
Yeah, correct.
Talk to me about that.
This one, I like.
I love it. That's
the process. Come on, it's like a potter that is molding a pot, right?
Yes, sir.
So it goes through different processes, fixing until it gets to that standard that the potter wants. Yeah, I like that second definition.
This second definition blew my mind, just like what you say, because of the process I saw. And another word I saw there is action, because it starts by saying that perfection is the action or process. So those two words came to the front: action and process, of improving something until it's faultless. Yes. It means that, I mean, if I'm to go by this definition, I might want to belong to the school of people that will say perfection is possible. It might take time, but it is possible. I mean, if you claim, for example, that God is perfect, and we are to argue it a little further and bring into the argument the point that we are made in God's image and likeness of God. If therefore God is perfect, I think it makes sense to think and say that yes, if it's the same DNA, if it's the same nature that runs in God, I'm perfect. Perfect. Yes.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to the we know when it comes to the inherited imperfection, the
Right.
That's one thing, right? Adam. That's one thing. But still, we try to be Christ-like, right?
Right.
And yes, we may not be able to measure up exactly to the
God class.
God class.
Yes, sir.
But when it comes to the human class, yes, we have to be.
Yes. You know, I like the phrase you use. Inherited imperfection.
Yes.
That's inherited imperfection. Yes. And if we think about inherited imperfection, we can also think about imparted perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because how did we inherit this nasty imperfection?
From Adam, right?
If we think of Adam, how did we inherit the imparted perfection?
From Christ. Yes.
So
you know,
point. Today in church, my pastor was preaching. He says something like, "Don't make the mistake of, binding without losing." So, for example, if you are praying and say, "Oh, I bind the spirit of poverty," you better make sure
you lose the word of prosperity.
Thank you, sir. Because it has to be equal and opposite, right? If you bind this,
you don't lose another one.
You're in trouble. The question you want to ask yourself is, okay, as I'm binding sickness, what should I be doing here? I should be losing health.
Yeah.
As I'm binding poverty, what should I be doing here? I should be losing prosperity. So what Adam messed up, which is the negative opposite, Christ fixed, which is the positive opposite. And I think, sir, that what it means to be made in the image and likeness of God means basically to have the nature. Because if God is perfect, I want to believe strongly that what makes God perfect is because of his nature. So the big question will now be, what is the nature of God? And let me read Colossians chapter 3, verse 14. It says, "But above all these things, put on love, which is the bond of perfection." I'm like, okay. Put on love, like the nice jacket you're putting on, like the nice one I'm putting on, like, put on love means wear it as you wear your clothes. And he says love can be defined as the bond of perfection. And I say, yes, I agree. Because if I to look at what is the nature of God, I think the strongest nature of God is love.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what is that about it?
Oh, yeah. Love is,
oh, my goodness.
Love is God is the personification of love.
Yes.
So,
yes.
It's what is his very being, his love. Yeah. And love is something that is lacking in the world today, everybody is, a lot of people are pretty much only looking after selfishness.
Now, listen. You just threw the strongest opposite of love. People, if I say, "Oh, what's the opposite of love?" Do you know, sir, that people will quickly jump to hate.
Sometimes.
But funny enough, the opposite of love is self. Man, listen, you just brought it out
so
self.
Yeah, it's a lot of selfishness. I don't think it's people you would jump to hate. Yes, you jump to hate.
I believe it's self.
But you see that people that don't show you love doesn't mean that they necessarily hate you. Most of the time they're just selfish.
They are very selfish.
Selfish,
It is selfishness, not necessarily hatred, but selfishness that will make you treat somebody without consideration. Because what selflessness does is to put some level of, you ask yourself, what if this is me?
Yeah. See, look at the story of that good Samaritan.
Talk to me about it.
Right? The one who showed the love, right, to the Jew, right?
To the man that was
beaten and dead. Yeah. The other people who passed by, did they hate him? No. But they didn't salvage. They didn't care about him. Talk to me. They didn't care about himself, So they didn't care about him. So the one who showed love, is the one that's who, so he's not really necessarily hate, selfishness is the big one.
So let's just get to the food part. Because I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, me too.
But let's look at this last one that I just thought about. And it's in Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5, in fact, I want to read it because I love it so much. Matthew chapter 5 began to also justify what Colossians say, that love is the bond of perfection. Now, I mean, Paul wrote Colossians, letter to the church, and I respect Paul a lot, but sometimes I feel more comfortable. Not that I don't respect Paul, but when it comes from the mouth of Jesus, I feel it's stronger than what any apostle could have written. And I see some people make this mistake of over amplifying the words of the apostles or the epistle of the apostles over and above what Jesus had to say. So in Matthew chapter 5, Jesus actually addressed love, and I want to read it. It's a long read, but I'm just trying to.
Let's get to the food.
I'm trying to get to the food part of the meeting. so Jesus was talking about this nature of God, how that love is nature of God and is possible. And now look at it, sir. It says, "Ye have heard," Jesus was speaking, "that it has been said, thou shalt love your neighbor and hate your enemy." That's what you are used to. That's what I've been saying. But I say to you, love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you. And pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Like, let me know, I wanted to say like somebody I know in my workplace. Pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be the children of your Father. So Jesus, from the very mouth of Jesus is saying, if you respond to people with love, you become the children of your Father who is in heaven. So what makes us true sons and daughters of God is that we have that nature of God, which is love. And he went ahead to say, our Father in heaven maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good. He sendeth rain on the just and the unjust. Think about it. That speaks of no discrimination. Imagine, sir, that God is relating with people on the basis of, oh, yeah, he's so perfect. Because he's so perfect, I'm going to do good to him. But the sun, when it comes up, covers both the perfect and the imperfect. The rain, when it comes up. So there's no discrimination in God. I want to ask you, before I come, the last question I said I'll ask you. I want to ask you about this evil of discrimination, which in it is racism, which in it is, pure racism, discrimination, because somebody is not your skin color, you don't get to, be kind to the person. What do you have to say about that?
Hello, how are you all doing? Good evening. How are you? You are welcome. Welcome back. Welcome back.
So what do you have to say about
that? Well, my take on that is this: that humankind have been, once when humans become alienated from God, go far away from God, then they start to seek the things that are not God-like. So this issue of discrimination or racism or whatever, it's something that unfortunately it's happening.
It's prevalent.
It's prevalent.
Yes, sir.
And it's not just You know, when you say racism, everybody always equates it white, black. It goes beyond that. It goes between white, black Asians, Middle East versus Asians, or Middle East versus black, Arab versus non versus Jewish. See how it goes? It's all over the place. You know, I've seen people just whenever they get this kind of mention about discrimination, the first thing they ever thought is the white man oppressing the black man. It's more than that. You know? It's more than that.
I think the Jews have a very big share of that too.
Yeah, so it's everywhere. You see, it's everywhere. It's, you know, but if only we, um, strive to be godly. It eliminates those. Romans said that God is not partial.
Right.
But in every nation,
yes,
He chooses the one that fears Him and walks righteously. Right. So it kind of like it's a way for us to see that if we want to be godlike, being godly breaks those barriers that people have when it comes to discrimination. Even like us that we are originally from Nigeria, right? You go in Nigeria now, you see that it's not about the color, it's about now the tribe.
There's discrimination. Here in America we call it racism. Over there we call it tribalism.
So it's
no matter the name, discrimination.
So it's a problem, but if we strive to be godlike, it breaks those barriers, and we see anybody that is our fellow human as one family, as one family. So we're all created by the same. I once had one neurosurgeon said when he opened the brain to do surgery, when they have dressed the patient and they open the skull for him to do his surgery, when he comes, he cannot tell the difference between the head of the skull of a black man when it's open and that of a white person. It's all the same. They're all on the inside, all the same. You see? So, but when we start looking at things on the surface, then we start putting it in class. And unfortunately, there are people who gain from this. So,
a lot of people
who gain from causing those fractions, right? People gain. Whether in Nigeria, whether here,
And you said you hit the nail on the head when you say the problem is not being godlike. That expression from you is amazing. God-likeness can put this to an end.
Yeah.
Example, people wonder, are you not supposed to be son of God? Talking to Jesus. How can Jesus be sitting with this sinners? That's what they said about him. And then the short man, Zacchaeus, he says he's going to Zacchaeus' house. Don't he know who that man is? But that is God-likeness. No discrimination. He loves everybody. So this, whether in Africa, tribalism, or over here, racism, or even the one that I hate passionately, classism. That I'm telling you, there are people that feel they are in a class. They can't even have a handshake with you. It's horrible. Well, that brings us to the end of this discussion of love. Last question I promised to ask you. It says, it's in your profession. One of the greatest fears that people have is the fear of death. Now, as a professional that handles people who have come to that stage of life where they will have to transit from this realm to the other realm, what would you have to share with us out of experience in terms of addressing this great fear globally? To me, the greatest fear ever, the fear of death. Should people really be that scared of death?
No, the answer is no. To me, the answer is no. Because there is, we started this conversation with the movie you watched about the midwife.
Yes,
right?
Sir.
So it's we all know that there's time for entry and there's exit.
Absolutely.
Okay, we come into this world at birth and we leave at death. Now, the point is, when you have lived your life to the fullest, you have lived your life to the fullest. When you have lived an upright life,
Right.
you have nothing to fear about death.
Mm.
Right?
Right.
So it's the way you live your life
Mm.
that makes people. I have seen people who, when it comes to that time that they are dying, they are fighting, they are they have that fear. The patient himself, not like the person who's about to transition, right? He's scared.
Mm.
He cannot go to sleep. He cannot close his eye.
Mm.
If you go deep into it, there are things that he's done that is making him afraid. The ones who have, if your hands are clean, you live the upright life, you done the right things, you are eager to let it go. I mean, let just because you know that your reward rests with the Almighty. You're not afraid of anything else. But the one who has not lived an upright life is always afraid. I'm not afraid of death.
I love it.
I'm not afraid of death. So
I love it. I think this answer should wake people up.
Mhm.
The answer you gave now should wake people up. I believe you 100%. If your hands are clean,
No, not worry about.
you come to death, just ready.
You're ready.
With a smile on your face.
You're ready. Yeah, correct.
So that fear is fueled by the things that we did that we shouldn't have done.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So it is.
It's a wake up call. Like,
Do people call it fear of the unknown? And I love what you say is a wake up call.
Yeah, people who call it. Yeah, people who call it. In hospice, there's what we call unfinished business.
Okay.
Unfinished business is when you try to, before the dying person get to that point, you try to help them to make peace, to fix things that are there things you need. Is there somebody you want to call and set things straight? Is there something you want to tell us? Those called unfinished business. So if that person can take care of his unfinished business, then he's at peace. That's not worry about it. Correct.
So the point we are taking out of this is the best way to transition is to be at peace.
Mm-hmm.
I think peace has a lot to do with transition.
Exactly.
If not, they wouldn't be calling it rest in peace, right?
Yeah. That's what it is.
Well, I go get food. Oh my God.
I'm almost it's time to go and see the receipts.
Serve yourself. Have everything.